Sanji Chudumaiwa, the Injikela. Sanji Chudon, Soji Chunamda, Chanjo Bandonda Ningam Soji, Daji Jinso, give it for Namji, and Rola, Sanji Chudor. Sanji Chudon, Soji Chunamda, Chanjo Bandonda Ningam Soji, and Daji Jinso, give it for Sanji Chudor, Sanji Chudon, Soji Chunamda, Chanjo. Dagi Jinso gave it so Namji, Rola, Sanji Chudor. So.
In the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. By the practice of giving and other perfections, I attain Buddhahood for all the sentient beings.
Okay. The Djibouti never needed you. Farina, sweet, you know, Lola, the chicken, the Djibouti, the Djibouti. Oh, okay. The Chujon a lot, or the oh, yeah. Should I mute? Like that? Mute? Now or later? Nice. Oh, the picture. Should get you. Hola, so. Presently to what? The worst number at the you should have the 27, right? 27, right? Okay.
You asked some questions about people to think about some of these points from verse 20.
Oh, boy.
And quoted that passage from Shantideva, which went in the group.
Okay.
So you were asking people to think about the conditions.
Oh, yeah, yes. So, as we discussed before, this the verse number 26, 27, and 28, that especially Tudin Shukitapa has something to add on here, and quite important. So as Simon has sent the translation in the group, so I hope most of you had a chance to look into that, and I hope that was beneficial. Okay, so now let's look into here. 계산 두 개를 다 알아 들어봐. 전주기 들어봐. 전주기 셈지. 오케이. 다 알아 되지. 아니 주자 되지. 다 되다. 당기 주베는 뭐는 미키 방사라. 루심 미데버 유경. 다. 디고 빵지 동에 미케베 치는 미가메 데들 로버도 또보다 딕비 셈단 룰란. 네, 그래서 27, please.
Having forsaken all evil, there would be no suffering, and due to wisdom, there would be no lack of joy. But now my mind is afflicted by mistaken conceptions, and my body is caused harm by unwholesome deeds.
다 당고 그 subject이야. 단하고 디코란이야. 고주시라도 봐. 말한주 다 간이 지슈를 가려서는 람주비 심벌 미케베스. 당아라도 되는 주고요. 보다. 미케베 간살라야 아니 루심 미데와 연구です. 가두 아니 지게 전주 셈 배나 군주 전주 셈다 단단한 전주 셈다 하와도 아니 지게 소나무 소다 이 시그 소를 것도 시지 공부하던 두베체를 qab이야. 아니 지게 Lusimle kanya yongadi lam drubi ribal mikewa yinza an kanya di yungu yore ane lam drubi riba ya kedi nye de la di yungu ma bes di ngora nye le yang ra ju kwa da da nye tu shum go se wa.
So first of all, perhaps to sort of put a broader context around this, then if we look at the the outline for this verse, which is in the verse, the outlines is contained in Gilsadhara Rinpoche's commentary, then using the commentary, the translation we were using, it says the person who is unskilled in the sequence of training in the path has physical and mental unhappiness or difficulties. Those who are skilled do not have the suffering of hardship and austerities. So this is sort of, the main point being made here is that those who are unskilled in the stages of how to practice the path and accomplish the path end up having difficulties and unpleasant problems and difficulties with both their body and mind, and even when accumulating the accumulations of wisdom and merit, or trying to practice the two kinds of awakening mind, the conventional awakening mind and the ultimate awakening mind, difficulties will still, mental and physical difficulties will still arise for them. And for those who are skilled in training correctly in the stages of the path, these kind of mental and physical difficulties will not arise.
Bodhisattva. That di naro le ya gesep Quran naro le tu yedwa chezanga chenju semba ninji ge samba tawa ti lu dong la dong yo ma des. Dedwa dina rasma gyumzen tele ya ani gyumzen tele gyumzen ni so bichi. Kojenna 고숨 게 디과 타다 방비 칠 도세 직체 아니 류동 틀에 캐바 세디 다 뒤캐바 직디 임지 상 당고 이렇게 좀 그래요 뒤 거둘래 유메디 하고 코디요 와세지 뒤캐바 고요 고심주 여가정 핑고 말 뒤다다 하고 고요 다 제자 아니 디과 타다 방비 칠도 다디 아란졸이야 디보타다 방에 치르시던 아란졸을 단다 류리야 내 나사 지간지 땅와다 탐지 아니 응아르기 민기위기 레기 판시비 두용 인자 아니 텔레야 내가 용도 준비 아란졸이 지금 내 차와다 아니 지금 나와다 저 탐지 동행이 두고 인자 연구요です. never 기원도 좀 셈는 미디어 연구요です. 세상았다 디고 타다 방비 쳐도 아니 달린 고 디고 타다 방비 쳐도 류리야 집어당 거야. 아니 류리야 직관이 준비는 쇠고에 들어와. 디레스 방비 쳐도
디크타리 bombichir
직체
루토마체
되네 둘이 잡아체 지나스 되네 일어 어디로와 일어 미코바메나스 되좀제니 소로 치러서 다 되네 윤센 디더라 다 디워브 캐치셔 윤센 디더라 간사단 다단 더기리 셴베 로봇도 못 봉하다 소주 디베스인데 류를 내가 연기 선바친분 나오는 내비 귤로베 소세티다 금진 콩 치셔드려 다디 이도자베 딜이야 다다 지고 지냐래 그래서 그 투렌치기 타베기 소만 신시시 그냥 디치큐션아 아니네
나도 이 난세기 헤비티나 일메다와세디 지단스스기 일메다와세는 미셴발이 미셴발메가와도
소소리야 소소리야 동예 변환이 지난 두위나 아차옵스가
되게
맞아 맞이부터 이 맞이부터도 오늘 제비나 아주 셈나로라 니 수구디 the chick not go yet.
Yeah.
Let a more on the chung should do. The yinza, on a view or some go view or a day, the Masambang mission about to do. They done change some to get Lula to me chumbo in and Nanas, Nenas or chumbo in. To the near land of the currents, let a new moon give punch with Lutelia, Kanye Cho and Jembe, Narki, let a new moon need Delia, and she did Toyachi, Yuan Toyachi. Delia war, which is done. You more 탐제 방비 주시면도 디버 탐제 방 쳐도 어디 좀 찍지. 어디지?
So in this verse, if we start to look at the commentary from Gyaltsab Je, which is quite similar in some ways to the Tipton Drapa that we sent out, it says, Buddhas, I'll read the translation, Buddhas with pure thought of compassion do not have physical suffering when they offer their body. And then there are two reasons which are given here. Because they have abandoned all the negativities of the 3 doors. And then another reason is sort of given is also they do not experience mental dislike, but actually it's more like just a form of kind of mental.
Farina, it's already in the blue people. Okay.
It's more like mental kind of mental disturbance or mental unhappiness because they are skillful regarding the time for offering the body. So I was just checking with Rinpoche because different translators have translated this differently. That here it's translated as kind of like mental dislike, so Rinpoche gave an example where you can connect the sense of mental dislike would be more like the dislike of something external, right? Rather than just the internal feeling of being mentally unhappy, the kind of mental suffering. So the way Rinpoche explained that is to kind of put the two together and say, well, the thing is that if someone sort of, scratches us or sort of, punches us or something, then we never think that that any of the suffering that, we never think that the principal cause of all of our physical suffering is the fact that this contaminated aggregates of this body is its substantial cause is karma and mental afflictions. And so what we tend to do is point at much more immediate, what we see as what we see as the cause, but much more immediate, such as pointing at others or some external condition that causes us. But the body is the kind of this body that has been produced by the substantial cause of karma and mental affliction is the sort of support where which causes then all the other sufferings of age and sickness and all of the things that heat and cold and all the unpleasant sensations. And so that's a primary way to think about how the sort of quality of mental suffering arises. And then so it gives these two reasons. So there's sort of they've abandoned all the negativities of the 3 doors, and they are skillful at the time of regarding at the time of offering the body. It's important that not to just to have in regard to the second one, it's important not to just have this kind of real mental strength or sort of conviction to give, but you also have to know when the right time has come. And so that's a very important that's a very important sort of factor to bring in for us. And these sufferings that come to us, in our case, and how this process works in terms of how these greater beings do not suffer physically. For us, these physical sufferings and then later the mental sufferings come from a whole accumulation of endless kind of accumulation of negativity. And so this is the results, the mental physical suffering and distress that we receive is the result of those accumulated negative actions of body, speech, and mind. So And so this, so you can see, so when we are and so when giving them, when having destroyed all of those negativities and the 3 doors of activities, then it's a suitable time to be able to give the body. And then there's a very important the second paragraph of the commentary by Geshe-Dhamma Rinpoche, where it says, therefore, for these reasons, the wrong conceptions of grasping at the self of person and grasping at mind, and the negativities of killing and so forth, harm body and mind. Yet the great bodhisattvas abandon these causes of harm. So, so this is a very sort of, this is a sort of more overarching reason that the self-grasping and the grasping at I and mine is what is helping to, and then the negativities that follow from that is what are causing the harm to body and mind. So, yeah. And so in order to, it says in, what it says in, which I think may not be clear in the translation is,
아니 일이야 미고야 메라스.
Yeah, so yeah, so it's they don't so this is why it says that they don't have a kind of physical forms of suffering, because they've abandoned all of the whole sort of class of negativity and kind of negative actions of the 3 doors. And because they, if they are able to become skilled in the time of giving their body, then they'll also have no kind of mental distress either.
Okay. When we start giving generosity, practice of generosity, do we feel that some kind of negativity is also at the same time when we do this kind of practice? Do we feel that somehow we purify some kind of negative karmas? Do we feel that? Most of people, when we practice bodhisattva or some kind of like prostrations, and especially a ritual related, then we feel the negative karmas are purifying. But for here, for bodhisattvas, when they practice generosity, they also do this for the purification. So here we have to learn something from there. When we give like 100 rupees, now these days 1 rupee and 10 rupees is not really that much. So 100 rupees or 50 rupees you give to the poor people who needs that. Do we feel we are purifying something? That is one kind of takeaway from this kind of teaching. Here, Bodhisattva, when he gives the body to others, so they do it because not only they need this, because also he can see this could be a method, a very strong method to purify the negativities. And for especially when we practice similar to that, and what kind of negativity we can purify is the sarna, the miserliness. That's the difficult one. Normally what we give others is not, we don't see benefit in us. Once we see a smile on their face, that we feel like, I'm very happy, I did a great but we never think, for myself, I have purified something today. That's we have to keep in our mind. So this makes important. Like His Holiness this morning, he said in the teaching in Ladakh that the ordinary, he said something, the enemy of outside, which he calls it like a
common kind of
common or ordinary enemy. And inside our real enemy inside. So why real one is ordinary, one is kind of real solid thing? Because more we try to respect more and show more kind of a kindness and love to the ordinary enemy outside, that it is a good chance to make the relation better. But if you put more kind of a respect and a love and affection to the inner enemy, that it will definitely destroy our life. That's what he said. He said this morning. So this is this is a kind of a vitamin for us. We need to take it, eat this and practice and keep this in our mind always. So this is the really kind of a booster for us. Whatever kind of practices Bodhisattvas do, they always see huge practice for their self, for their own good. They did it much too. And now we will look down to the more important part. What makes them, when they do see whatever the generosity they are practicing, they see this, their purpose is to purify all the negativities, karma, and not only that, and then they know this is the right timing for them to do this, because on the level we see like Solam the Jalam, the path of accumulation and preparation, it's called Mechugsa.
It's a kind of intentional or aspirational kind of practice, form of practice. The ground of intent, a kind of aspiration.
So for that reason, there could be some kind of time that they need to give the body for like the actual giving
body,
practice. Sometimes needed, but mostly it's not permitted. But once reaching part of seeing, especially the Satang, the first Bhumi, and then there he can give his body actually, because ni jibe parodi chim zobar es zodan tele ya jumzen karu gu yorsna ti kaldo le ya senwa kunzin gi tima bang res dir da senwa kunzin gi tima de bang ma cha gado anzu ngo su de jimba tang bo halam chem chum su chire senwa kunzin gi tima di ma bang ge pardo anzu lu ngo su jimba tang bo so de urwa de zo Bedi chema chu se yo ma ko ka je de go yo ba. Ina ya ti ma chop su jires.
So it's from the first ground up, they say that it's the time when it's possible to give to actually physically give this to the real body, and what's the reason that you could do that from the first ground up? Because essentially you've got rid of all kinds of all of the stains of kind of miserliness and kind of tight grasping, and so it's not that you couldn't offer your body before then, but it's almost like without destroying these two things once you reach the first ground, because the first ground in the sort of when you connect the grounds with the perfections, then the first ground is the completion of the perfection of generosity. And what's the reason it's perfection of generosity? Because it destroys all kind of miserliness and tight grasping and tight-fistedness. All of the stains of that are gone. So then it's really only, but you can't say definitively that you should never give before then, because that would be there would be cases which would go against that. But it's almost like that. It would be very rare.
Now look at the translation of the Tuden Shuji Tapas that sent in the group. Diva. Oh, Chanjugi Chansim Gi is a Kosungi Sungani, Dibo Mingi, Tata Pambi China, Duburangi, Duburangi Lula, Soa Duni Chuan Silas. What? Pambi Chitu, Pambi China, to Pambati. Chanju Samba Yinzi the Pangmarwa. The Pangbi Chip to say, Kona Yayo, Pangbi Chip to Lana. Any Chanju Samba Tada Kodu, Shan, Pangbas Labi Naya Dot Yorkshire. A day to Chambe Dungi Chum Misila, Koadang, Koadang, Dungi, Dumata Buruna, some days, no, some day, Ranshi may be Chuji Nilu. And that may be trying to keep it chinas. That didn't get you to Koa than doing more so to talk Koa the Tarung Pama Jabache, Koa the Sajina Wallaby Pumbut and the Luigi Batan de Wa, and there's a best Sajina Wallaby Pumbutilla, Chun Challenge. Any the Dumata would know to us. Dumata to say to some Kolia Shensha Shuchimbuj. Shanja Shushimo Meva Yinayang, Uncle Chawacheva Tone to make Dumata Tontantre. Dumata would non some days, Ranchimi between the little dog base, Dumzendire, Tongo Dumzen and Nilu Dove in Zansu Dove, Dame between the Kevichina, Semla, Migo Jungsi Yang, Juma Missi days, what did it? Similar Migo Jungsi Matters. Migo Jungsi Yang the Karasana, Dado Zibit, Dungzin the Ya. 아니 아주마손에 never drake yo this 그냥 선은 그런 등진디 방에 치도 내가 치도 요리스
방에 치도
등진들이야 등진들이야 아주 등진들이야 숙심부 내용도 잠배 대상당당 치료 알아서 등진들의 숙심부 내용도 잠배 아주 뭐지 잘
알아요.
그봐 아주 뭐지 잘 되는 전주 선발라 등진의 내용도 가고요 봐
알아요.
방향선은 다음에 또 비셔럽이 누가 숙처럼 로드 홍보 등진기 누가 총으로 통과요 봐 안절에 다음에 또 비셔럽이 매합체 유마도 통다데 매합체 아는 알아는 저기 강 넘치 균도 현차 계획이 실대려야 진내가 통데 등진을 넣을 수요 어디 치료 따디 고구리도
So if we take the basis of taking the basis of Dipchen Chikitaku's commentary, which is in the translation, which is in the group, and I'll read bits of it first and then just add in the things she said about it. So it says that it is said that since the Bodhisattvas abandon the cause of all kinds of negative, non-virtuous actions through all the three doors of body, speech, and mind, the result is that it's impossible then for them to physically experience the feeling of suffering. And then it says, but it's in the Tibetan. It's so it's sort of if we just said it actually says in Tibetan bombi tirana, so for the purpose of abandoning all the negativities of the three doors. So this is a bit more sort of open-minded, that sort of bringing in those practitioners, the other bodhisattvas, not the ones who have actually got rid of them, such as on the higher ground, such as the Arya kind of bodhisattvas, but also perhaps it's a little bit more open-minded to for those who are striving to get rid of it as well. We can say that there can be some kind of effect, to physically experience less the feeling of sufferings, as well as when they have abandoned all of these negative actions of negative non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind, then they physically experience no suffering. So perhaps a little bit, the way it says bodhicitta might give us a little bit more sort of, to include those who are actually also practicing that way, but haven't actually got rid of them all yet. Then it says, because they see that cyclic existence and suffering are nothing more than merely illusion-like appearances, where their actual mode of existence lacking any inherent existence, then they are wise in the meaning of selflessness, and it is impossible for any form of unhappiness, mental unhappiness or unhappiness to enter their minds. So, so here when we talk about when it says because that they see psychic existence and suffering are nothing more than merely illusion-like appearances, we don't have to go far away to some wild extreme of samsara, but keep it very personal, and in the sense of this, the contaminated aggregates of the contaminated psychophysical aggregates of our own body and mind, and does it appear illusion like, it doesn't appear illusion like to us, and there's for us this kind of strong sense of kind of clinging and attachment, but for those greater beings who see through to the mode of the actual mode of existence, the ultimate mode of existence of phenomena, then there's no clinging and attachment, and the body and mind will appear illusory, like samsara and suffering will appear illusory, and so will our own sufferings and the body and mind. But for people like us, the sort of idea of sort of trying to see the the mode of existence of things is actually more likely to it doesn't, for the great bodhisattvas, the wisdom, understanding the selflessness harms the self-grasping of the self, harms the self-grasping, and they're able to abandon. They're able to to see things in an illusory like way. But for us, it's more likely that if there's a kind of almost like an attack on the self through an attempt to sort of see through or kind of harm self-grasping, then it's liable to kind of make us more kind of agitated. So it's this wisdom and so we wouldn't get this effect of seeing things as illusory, like because we still have this clinging attachment and grasping, and so that in a sense it's not very effective for us. But for these great beings who the wisdom of selflessness directly harms their self-grasping, and they're able to see things in this illusory like way.
Maybe it's a half joke, maybe serious. If we say that giving your own body is something, this is not a right practice, how can harm yourself? and so on. There can be a debate. But then maybe the practice of Zhe is in a big danger, because this is mostly it's whatever you want my blood, you take it. You like what kind of the parts of me, you take it. It's everything yours, nothing owned by myself. All this practice is sometimes extreme. So when it becomes extreme, and when it's not become extreme, is once you have the right attitude to overcome this. So then mostly the person, many people practice Zhe, I guess, these days, but mostly they do as people are doing it. But the real Zhe practitioner should a person like at the time of, as a beginner, as I mentioned before, the reaching the first Bhumi, we are not supposed to bring that in actual action, because it's against the Bodhisattva's vow. And if you do the 6th session Guru Yoga every day, in there it is said that you cannot unrespect or you can harm, disrespect
your aggregates.
Then when it becomes the because you see necessary, you should see necessary why this practice is necessary, because this helps, particularly like the Zhe, it is some kind of solution that brings so much kind of strength into the practice to reduce the self-cherishing. It's more like you really 99% you are ready to give. This kind of feeling comes, then it is a perfect practice, because right after the Zhe, the body is still here, but the grasping goes so down, self-cherishing goes so down, and more love and compassion comes up automatically right after the practice. So how beautiful this practice is. I think here Shantideva is not talking much about Zhe here, but this is the real Zhe, that what he's talking about here. Okay, so now
I just forgot one bit. So
okay.
when she said about seeing samsara and the sufferings, because they see the ultimate mode of existence of phenomena, they see it as illusory life. So for these, the great beings who've seen through that, then the last part is that therefore they don't have any kind of mental disturbance or mental agitation or suffering. But perhaps for us, when our practices are not really doing that, so it can create more, it may create more mental agitation than, but for these beings, that seeing through to the illusory like nature then stops them from having any mental suffering, mental disturbance.
No, did you? 28. Sunam Jini Lu de la Kaba Yini Sem de na Shedun Kora Nejan Ninji Jenda Jidi Joyous. 28, please.
As their bodies are happy due to their merits, and their minds are happy due to their wisdom, even if they remained in cyclic existence for the sake of others, why would the compassionate ones ever be upset?
Tadi Dirishata, Dorjida, Sembachimbo Nam Jinso Sunam Gijibu the Lu Deva Landorda, Tombani Gitul Kabayi, Shajusamba Tado Mutar, Sim de Washington, Kwanejani, Injigenda Chidikos. Da Shajusamba Zo da call never Joyo Malesita. 다 전주 선발도 콜이야 never 다 좋아요. 아니 원은 인중요 말을 비슷해 줘 봐. 자주 생각하는 인중매하다.
Oh, the Gavoichi.
디지라다냐.
So the first question that comes, so the first statement is, well, the Bodhisattvas have no regret staying in samsara. So then immediately you would debate with them and say, well, do you have no renunciation? Because you enjoy staying in samsara. So maybe you don't have renunciation.
다디 두세 제메도가 다디 가르레도스나 과정에서는 동번 얘기 다디난도
Sorry, I didn't read the commentary which says, now Bodhisattvas have physical happiness through the merits of generosity and so forth, and they have mental happiness like the Bodhisattva ever crying through being skillful regarding what has to be adopted and what has to be rejected, and the meaning of emptiness. So since there is no cause for suffering, why should those with compassion tire, even though they remain in cyclic existence for the purpose of others? That's Joyous commentary.
다디리 랑 코알 미네 더두슬라면 인지로 처음으로 랑이 랑기 치도랑이 당한 주시기 봐. 랑된 추구. 랑된 추구 세븐의 신시에 대 인중 삼바점만 입었는데 토네 아니 코아세도 소디 달라 차베 다차들이 달라 차베 다차디 반용으로 당야 디기 다디 가려서는 랑된 추구 톰드디
할래.
다데네 디 여바장기 마세베 전주 선보 코알 네발라 아니 좀 해봤어요. 좀 랑이 코알 네발 좀 해주면 돼. 랑이 지구 코알 네발에 좋아지요. 저기 좀 잘봐. 다 랑이 코알 네나야 전신 부시부지 주고 통도 현재 수구세다. 현재 수구 주비에 튕긴 시부지 통고요. 다디 인지미 있습니다. 현재 수구 주비에기 튕긴 시라비만 현재 수구 주비에 라메다. 현재 수구 루비아기 차게만 거지 코알 통고요레스. 대인도 잠배 코알 네블이야. 현정이 쳐도 쪼지예요. 현정도 코알 내장세도 되는 같이 모르죠.
So in terms of there's no regret for the Bodhisattvas staying in the cyclic existence, but if they were just to stay in cyclic existence just alone without any kind of without any purpose, any other purpose, then they probably would feel some kind of regret. One way to sort of open this up is to think about the two kind of concerns or kind of focus on welfare, one on one's own welfare and one on one's own purpose or welfare, and then on the other's purpose of welfare. So for in terms of ourselves, then this would be the achievement of the achievement of the Dharmakaya, which would come through uncontrived renunciation. Because the Chantis water, the Dalashimbi chapa digi, because
다른 코알이야 민중세디. 민중세디 유비임세 가르스나 그 동반이 되면 통고도 그전에는 달 차베 다차디 더 코알 자와디 차디요. 네. 어디 있는 좀 민중유가 다디레스.
알아요. 코이 자와디기.
코알 자와주의 삼도도와 동반이 된 통고도. 네. 다디 가르스는 전주 선보 쪽이 랑된 추구들 봐.
Yes. So the sign of the sort of bodhisattvas wishing to fulfill the purpose of the what's called their own purpose, which is the accomplishment of the Dharmakaya, is that they they have the uncontrived renunciation, but they also, in order to have that, they have to have this understanding that there's no use having a kind of unbounded kind of clinging attachment to the sense of self. So they understand that the root of samsara is the clinging attachment to self, and then seeing through to that, then they understand that the antidote to that is selflessness, which is the path for them to achieving the one's own purpose, which is the Dharmakaya. But then when we for the bodhisattvas, when we talk about them staying in samsara without any regret, then perhaps they were just hanging around on their own without much to do, without any other sort of purpose, then maybe they would have some regret. But it's what the purpose that they're staying for is this huge purpose of the welfare or purpose of others, which is to accomplish the form body, which is the body that will appear to the sentient beings. It's the body which will perform the great purpose of all sentient beings. And so they see in samsara that there are many not supportive, it's the wrong word, but they see that there are many facets of samsara which will be helpful for them in attaining, working towards the great purpose of achieving the form body, and therefore, because they have this overriding sort of desire to work for this huge purpose of others, therefore there is no regret.
As I said here, Bodhisattvas enjoy their stay in samsara because not of the clinging to the samsara, because they each and every day for them staying in samsara gives so much kind of inspiration from the sentient beings. Seeing that how much one person can benefit a lot, that's the confidence he or she is building each and every day. So that means it looks like the Bodhisattvas, the main objective is not to get the fully enlightenment. It sounds like each and every day they are not like, I'm doing this to get a fully enlightenment. That's like clinging to the Buddha, becoming Buddha. But it is more like each and every day, whatever energy that Bodhisattvas have, they spend this energy. And once they see this is really working, they bring so much joy in them. And then once they cannot help or becomes helpless for some time, and then they grow more faith into the
In the
form body. Then their main thing like unless I didn't get the form body, then this kind of body is not enough. This kind of so this is how they grow their practice. For us, maybe a little different case here. For us, it's I need to get a full enlightenment. That's why I'm doing this. So we are not really enjoying the time of generosity, and then so on. We don't see any kind of benefit of seeing how to, when we see their practices of the self reducing the self-cherishing. We don't appreciate that much. Just spending some few times with the really sometimes annoying people. You try your best, and then somebody really makes your mind a little bit crazy. But then for Bodhisattvas, they're eager, they don't get like fully annoyed. little bit annoyed because on the 10th bhumi they have this difficulty. That's what it said, right? No, deeply, did it your thing to think you and Tim so that it did yours and that's in Hakumason. It's on the one kind of the bhumi that is says especially he grows more kind of get Tirvata 아주 바로도 심어 줘서 내 신시지 아니
completing perfection.
파 가수 거린 친구 제시는 초저벌로니지도 와 저벌로니 주고 봐 호텔 믹스기 아니 서버 타버게지 대충구요.
So however, the stronger that they sort of work to help someone out and people just come back with kind of worse and worse things, then there's a point because they chip a lot, they call
but 강준이 if the person is knows I have given him so much already, but then he is trying to annoy or try to
it's being irritating
in purpose on purpose on purpose. So even on the bhumi there's difficulties sometimes, but not like us, but we got completely annoyed. For them not. So what I really wanted to bring here is now when we do practices, we don't feel that are we using all the energy that we have, and then maybe better to say around so any around so kayu never kayu to 심지어는 편도 제야디 니라가 지구 요리요 말이스. 되니 제니를 봐. 아니 당기면도 삼나. 아니 딜레가도 다 사코마 고마를 삼로디 신의 리그를 봤어. 아주 삼삼 말하는 네가 강요디 지구요 말이스. 아주 지기 네가 강요디에 마치브체. 아니 되네 배 첨부 시부지 삼로다제 아니 산지지 고관지 터워서 디기 간좀만 손이 냠네 아주만 손이 텐에 셈 나는야 텐 주고 뭐랑 줄라야 어디다 좀 내가 자금을 줬어 디 이지미지 말하는 네가 강요 위치 네가 강요지 아니 참참 아니 말하는 줄 셈게 맞죠 리그 맞죠 아니 망고지 리그를 봐 어디도 아니 신에다 산지지 고마도나 용사 말에 전주 선버티던 디기 똑같은 데지 마토나 용사 말에 세지 가지고 고구요레스. 뭐 디인지미지 고구도 있다.
오늘 디스쿠션.
아니 그래서
this not discuss.
배낭 알아서 냠낸 치를 봤어. 냠런 제베 갑라. 아니 산지지 고만 토슈라 비어메자. 배나 산지지 고만 토버쇼 말라고 말라. 수수기 말한줄 단다 강 예베디 네버 강 예비 토네 냠낸 제요를 요 말했어. 전주 선배도 가르쳤으나 배 코알 네버리야 좋아요를 쓰도와 그런 줄 산지 고마도 그 봐도 코알 좋아요를 이렇게 저렴도와 그런 줄 산지 고마도 마토나양 아니 코알 네베 가려야 좋아요를 쓰도와스 말하는 줄에 티나신지 전주 심 베기 람다 사도 토비어 말에 이날 아라운 쪽이 진바도 추림서가 준주 고매야로 서고 드냐 멘지가 좀 여러 봐. 대조로 가서 쪼와 두에스. 다 대조 쪼와디 아니 여베체. 안 단도 디간다 당기민두스. 당기민두스 not enough.
아래요.
그런 당바유엔 당유 메시지. 딜 enough. 다디 디 enough 민두 띵말 마고 또 내가 채고 또 나나 아니 신이 당아사 당고 디 마토나 가버리셔. 때 여름 지금 송도와 조남질 초람질 송에도 먹고 송이가 통람질 송 그냥 근데 그거 통고 그랬어 그거 저장 그거 마토나 아니 맞아 딱 남상고를 디만드 산지도 관토셔 지시티 야 충충충충 딩년이야 다다한 거 되지 다지기 단다 디리 वर्ष नंबर 28 दिगी तो खारतिंग को छना छजु संबो तो खोआ लेने बे ना या 아고 좀 좋아요. 어디 nenga 친구들.
Okay, so we have to think in terms of when we're doing our practice and whether are we using all the energy that we have? Are we putting all the energy we have into our sort of practice, using it for our practices or not? And it's so we have to think about whether so we haven't, we're not for the bodhisattvas, they always have this great they have this great delight in remaining in samsara, and even if they think that even if they didn't attain enlightenment, then it would still, even if they didn't attain enlightenment, they would still be happy sort of in samsara. They have a great joy and delight about it, as they they just have that kind of general sense. Whereas for us, even if we sort of put all our, even if we can answer the question by saying that we do put all of our energy into our practice, but again, there's a problem of sort of almost like setting our sights too highly, that we tend to sort of at the beginning of our practice say, oh, may I attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. And what we're probably doing is ignoring that, that I think as Holiness mentioned, the sort of the sense in which you have to be kind of realistic about whilst accepting that you can do more, that it's not enough, you can do more, and you can increase your energy and invest more energy, but still we tend to do this we tend to do it without delight, and we're not, here we're not talking, for us it's, when we're talking about the great bodhisattvas, we're talking about beings who are on the paths and grounds of the bodhisattva path. But for people like us, we have to think a bit more realistically than this. So, as Holiness is saying, not even, there's not to talk about the path of seeing or the path of preparation or even the path of accumulation, but there's a sort of reality about the steps that we need to go through. So although we may have that aim towards kind of complete enlightenment, but we, you have to have some kind of, while investing our energy, we have to have a kind of realism about our practice. Whereas what Shantideva is saying in verse 28 is that for the bodhisattvas, it's no, there's no problem at all that whether they they have attained enlightenment or not, they have this great delight in remaining in samsara. So we have to sort of and we have to put ourselves in context really about where our practice is and how much energy we actually devote to our practice and whether there's delight in that.
Okay, so we stop here today, and then probably next Friday there might be no class, and then I will see that when I get a time in Spiti, then maybe I can send a message. So if not, then for a month we have a vacation. I will keep in touch. So thank you very much, everybody. Let's do dedication.
Sure. Having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I've heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful chambers and tens and gates, so please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the Hira Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samanthabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue, for the dedication praised is the best. By all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or one spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Okay.
JJ,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
JJ.
So.
Thank you, Rinpoche.